Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a very, very interesting show for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, as someone that has been living out of the States for some time now, I've been actually fascinated with some of the things that have been taking place, and I've been trying to figure out what happened to Disney, what happened to ESPN, because the last time I checked, Disney was a company that everybody liked and patronized. Everyone was excited to go to Disney World. All of the Marvel movies, everyone loved them. I mean, the last Avenger movie I saw, I was in total, I was awestruck by that movie. The movies would make a ton of money. People love ESPN. But then all of a sudden, things just started to change. All of a sudden, you start seeing various people coming out and speaking against ESPN. And I'm like, what happened? So I've been spending the last few days trying to educate myself on what's really taking place. Why is ESPN losing so many viewers? Why are people like Malika on TV disrespecting her male counterparts all over television and nothing is being done about it? Why is Jalen Rose, who was formerly employed by ESPN, being reprimanded and forced to apologize on on live TV for asking a question about why a particular person's name wasn't revealed, but the head coach was revealed? Why is he forced to read a public apology over that? What is going on? I've been trying to get to the bottom of this. So while doing my research, I actually came across a channel, and this channel is called Moon. Funny enough, that's the name of the channel. It's called Moon. And this channel boasts 1 million subscribers. Right? 1 million subscribers. And then I looked at the video, and the title of the video was called The Incredibly Satisfying Death of Disney. Now, the irony is this isn't the only video that has this type of title. There's so many videos documenting the collapse of Disney. So I said, okay, let me click on this video. The thumbnail was interesting. I said, okay, let me click on it, right? It was about a 17-minute video. And the producer here essentially walked me through the genesis of this issue and brought it all the way to the current day. Now, while I was watching this particular piece, he was discussing everything about the stock price, the movies, all of these different things. But then he got to a very, very interesting section of his argument that really, really made me begin to understand this thing at a deeper level, at a much deeper level. So actually, what I want to do is I want to read some of the things that he had to say, because we don't own the right to this video and we don't want any issues with him. And then I'm going to really give you guys my full thoughts on it. But before we get into that, this video is brought to you by our sponsor, Aura, who's also the official sponsor of the Tools. Do you know what the fastest growing crime in America is today? It's identity theft. Imagine trying to log into your email only to see that your password has been changed. Then you start getting weird notifications from your bank and credit cards, only to find out that all of your personal and sensitive information has been totally compromised. If you think it can happen to you and your family, just know that in 2020, over 49 million Americans were victims to identity theft, costing them a combined $56 billion. That is why we are excited to partner with Aura, who's the sponsor of this video. Aura is the #1 identity theft and financial fraud protection. Aura monitors the dark web and alerts you if any of your passwords and accounts have been breached. And funny enough, after using Aura, I discovered some of my credentials were floating around in the dark web, and the app showed me exactly when and where the breach happened. In addition, Aura allows you to set spending alerts, and they'll notify you of any suspicious transactions. Aura is 4 times faster than any of its competitors in alerting you if someone is trying to open a credit card or obtain a loan using your name. And remember this, every 14 seconds, someone becomes a victim of identity fraud. Don't let it happen to you. Now click the link in the description and try Aura for free for 2 weeks and see if any of you or your family's personal information has been compromised. Start your free trial at aura.com/dreamerspro. And when you try Aura, Florida by using the link in the description below. Also know that you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So let me just read a little bit of what he had to say. Disney's former CEO stated that the company should be taking a stand on political issues and will no longer shy away from politics in the future. This would be a statement that will come back to bite Disney horrendously. And it likely trickled down from BlackRock, one of Disney's top shareholders, holding 120 million shares within Disney. Now, to be clear, BlackRock is a powerful investment management fund overseeing approximately 10% of all stocks traded globally, which amount to about $10 trillion in assets. Bloomberg even referred to BlackRock as a, quote, a fourth branch of government. BlackRock's founder and CEO Larry Fink has personal connections with the former Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner, and BlackRock holds control over several major banks, which is why Fink is often considered the most influential man in America, because most investors and banks use BlackRock's ESG ratings to decide whether to invest in a company. And to be clear, an ESG rating, according to BlackRock, measures the company's exposure to long-term environmental, social, governance risks. These risks include things like energy efficiency, worker safety, and board independence, which can have significant financial implications if not properly managed. But then in 2018, the score underwent a change when Finks wrote a letter to all the companies under his influence stating that they must, quote, contribute to society or risk losing support, adding that, quote, society is demanding that companies, both public and private, serve a social purpose. And of course, Disney would do everything they can to satisfy its biggest investor. So it shouldn't be any shock that Disney has the second highest ESG rating in the entertainment industry, which is why today we see Disney at the forefront of recent push for social justice and progressivism. Now that the first cracks after this show, when Disney became increasingly political, opposing Florida's new public education bill, which prevented teachers from educating children below third grade about sex and gender ideology. Now, it's unclear why Disney is so opposed to this particular bill, or why multinational billion-dollar company that relies on states like Florida would suddenly weigh in on grade school education unless it's somehow related to their ESG rating. But it didn't stop Disney. And then the article then goes on to continue on to say how Disney has made it clear that, you know, they've asked some of their employees to read certain books about race and not question this and not question that, you know, and really push their various agendas. And after listening to that, it made me think about a blow up that I saw on television about 8 to 9 or maybe 10 months ago, which was centered on the Ime Udoka situation. I'm sure the majority of you guys remember the Ime Udoka situation. And essentially what happened was this. Malika Andrews was invited on ESPN First Take. This is when the thing was just like, you know, the news had just come out. And she was invited on there to give her take because I believe she was also covering the story. And at the time, Stephen A. Smith put out a point, which was, number one, this situation took place between two consenting adults. Number two, it was an HR matter and it should have never been made public. So then what happens? Malika Andrews then comes on television on his show and publicly tries to give him a flogging on his show, to the point where Stephen A. Smith himself had to push back on her on live TV and remind her that she was actually on his show. So what we want to do is want to play that quickly for you guys to give you guys a refresher, and then we're going to continue on with the show. Take a listen to that.
Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. what became apparent to me in this press conference is that we do not have all of the information here. And it was frustrating to me that the Celtics declined to elaborate or to give more specifics about what exactly the rule breaking was that led us to this point. So that I just want to get that out of the way first. But to answer your question, Molly, I think what stood out to me, I think what stood out to me is that Brad Stevens, he was upset. That's what stood out to me about what he termed rampant Twitter BS is the word that he used, that women were unfairly dragged into this within the Celtics organization. You could see that Brad Stevens was visibly upset about this. And I also found that to be gross and unnecessary, that folks were bringing in the names and the images of women that is just not a fact. That was purely speculation. And so to me, that is what stood out. But the Celtics as an organization could have done more, and short of doing more ahead of this yesterday, they could have owned that responsibility in this press conference. I understand that there were legal parameters that they had to operate within for everybody involved. And I appreciate the fact that they brought in outside counsel and did a thorough organization. And I think that that is something that was clearly necessary in this situation. But the fact that it was able to go on all day, the fact that we are sitting here debating whether somebody else should have been suspended or not, we are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
First of all, let me be very clear. I don't appreciate where you're going with that. I'm not blaming anybody but Ime Udoka. He deserves, the fact of the matter is, I've said he deserved to be fired if they were going to fire him. If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I've already said he deserves to be fired, or he deserves to be there and handle it internally and privately. If you're not going to handle it privately, if you're going to publicize it in that fashion, then obviously it provokes everybody wanting to know, okay, well, who are the parties involved? When you have Amina Smith in Boston and other women pointing out the fact that there were women who were wrongly implicated in all of this, it's a disservice to them. I didn't come out with the report about a consensual relationship. I didn't come out with the report ahead of time leaking that they were going to suspend him for the year. They did that. And my point is, considering how pervasive this kind of stuff has existed in professional sports for many years, my whole point is that, make sure that you handle it in the same fashion it has always been handled.
So you heard the exchange there. Now, after that took place, a lot of us were left scratching our heads, asking the question, how is something like this even possible? How could Malika Andrews, who's about in her 20s, be talking to Stephen A. Smith, who's in his 50s, talking to a grown man on television, like as if she's talking to one of her little nephews or whatever? A lot of us were turned off by that. And a lot of us were asking the question, why is she being allowed to get away with this? And then you started seeing various scenarios where Malika Andrews was cutting off her male counterparts, talking in any kind of way, bringing up stories about various blacks. And a lot of people asking the question, like, what is her issue here? And it went unchecked. But when Jalen Rose asked the question about why is it that this woman's identity is not being publicized, he was then forced to go on TV and make a public apology. It let me know that, wait a minute, this is an environment that ESPN is actively trying to foster. They're actually pushing for this. And I think that they've empowered people like this to feel like they can go out there and just spread their wings and nothing is going to happen. You can go out there and try to disrespect the face of our network on his show, on live television, with tens of thousands of people listening and watching, and nothing is going to happen. We give you that leeway. We give you this leeway. And after seeing this guy's video, it made me begin to understand that maybe there's a reason that they're pushing for this. Now, towards the end of his video, he mentioned something quite interesting, which I was unaware of. He said in this push for, gender equality or, race and all of this stuff, he mentioned something that I didn't know. He said, while Disney's making this push, he said, when they put out black animated movies or Marvel movies in China, for example, a place like China, do you know that they weren't even allowed to show the black person's face? So they showed two thumbnails of the Black Panther's movie cover. One of them had Chadwick Boseman on it, which was the one released in the States and other places. And then the other one, I believe that was released in China and other countries, they actually had the Panther face covered with his helmet to show it's not a black dude. They complied with that. Which makes one ask the question, well, wait a minute. Do you really believe what you're doing, or are you doing this to serve a greater purpose, which is your own interest? So to me, I thought it was very interesting, and I'm beginning to understand that, these people aren't just acting out of their own autonomy, that they're actually being, influenced to do these things. I could be wrong, but this is just my understanding of the issue. So what I want to know from you guys is, what do you think about this show? Whatever you guys think about this show, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comments section. Do you think if Disney continues and ESPN, these guys continue in this direction, they're going to continue to bleed customers, or do you think that no, things are going to level out? Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comments, and we catch you on the next show. Peace.